I still can't believe this actually happened to me. I mean, who tries to blackmail someone in this day and age? And over something so ridiculous? But he did. And I swear the satisfaction of watching his smug face crumble was worth every single moment of stress. I still wake up sometimes in a cold sweat thinking about it. But then I remember how it all ended, and honestly, it just makes me smile. Was I wrong for what I did? For fighting fire with fire, or maybe even a small nuclear device? Tell me honestly, would you have done the same thing? Because I truly believe I had no other choice. It all started innocently enough, as these things always do, don't they? I'd been working at Innovate Tech Solutions for about 5 years. It was a decent job, nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills, offered good benefits, and the people, for the most part, were great. My boss, however, was another story. Let's call him Mark. Mark was the kind of guy who on the surface seemed charming. He had a quick wit, dressed impeccably, and knew how to schmooze clients. But beneath that polished exterior was a truly rotten core. He was manipulative, condescending, and had a nasty habit of taking credit for other people's work. Everyone in the department knew it, but no one dared to cross him. He had a way of making your life hell, subtle at first, then escalating until you either buckled or left. I, being stubborn, always chose to buckle. Until now. My role was in product development, specifically software UI/UX. It was a creative field, and I genuinely enjoyed it. I poured my heart into every project, often working late nights and weekends to ensure everything was perfect. Mark, of course, would then present it as his brainchild to the higher-ups. It was infuriating, but I just kept my head down, telling myself it was part of the game. I had a good relationship with my colleagues, especially Sarah, who was in marketing, and Tom, another developer. We'd often commiserate over Mark's antics, sharing knowing glances and eye rolls during meetings. We were a tight-knit group, surviving the corporate jungle together. My home life was pretty normal. I lived with my partner Alex, who was incredibly supportive. We'd been together for years, and he was my rock. He knew about my struggles with Mark and often urged me to stand up for myself or even look for another job. But the stability was hard to give up, especially with our plans to buy a house in the near future. The incident that sparked everything happened about 6 months ago. We were working on a major project, a new proprietary software that was supposed to revolutionize our industry. It was high stakes, and Mark was under immense pressure to deliver. He had, as usual, taken charge, but his leadership mostly consisted of delegating everything to us and then micromanaging every tiny detail, often changing his mind multiple times a day. This particular week, I had been working on a critical module. It was complex, requiring a unique coding solution that I'd spent weeks researching and developing. I was proud of it. I had finally cracked it, and the tests were running perfectly. I sent Mark the updated files, along with a detailed explanation of my solution, on a Friday afternoon. He replied with a perfunctory, "Good job, keep it up." Normal, right? The following Monday, I came into work feeling pretty good. I was ready to move on to the next phase of the project. But as soon as I sat down, Sarah rushed over to my desk looking panicked. "Did you see the internal memo?" she whispered, her eyes wide. I hadn't. I checked my email, and there it was. An announcement from Mark, circulated to the entire company, congratulating himself on the innovative solution he had single-handedly developed for the new software. He even attached a screenshot of my code, highlighted with his name prominently displayed as the author in the metadata. My blood ran cold. He hadn't just taken credit. He had brazenly put his name on my work and announced it to the whole company. It was a slap in the face, a public humiliation. I felt a surge of white-hot anger, a feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. This wasn't just about my work anymore. It was about his audacity, his complete disregard for my efforts. I confronted him, of course. I walked straight into his office, the memo clutched in my hand, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. "Mark, what is this?" I demanded, holding up the memo. He leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing on his lips. "What's what, my name?" he asked, feigning innocence. "This! You took credit for my work! You put your name on my code!" I practically shouted. He chuckled, a low, dismissive sound. "Oh, that? Well, you submitted it to me, didn't you? As your manager, I oversaw its development. It's essentially team effort, and as the leader, I take responsibility. And credit, of course. But you called it your innovative solution," I countered, my voice cracking. "You said you single-handedly developed it." He shrugged as if it were the most natural thing in the world. A little embellishment for the higher-ups. You know how it is. They like to see strong leadership. Besides, what are you going to do, complain? Who do you think they'll believe? He had a point. He was the manager with years of seniority. I was just another developer. I felt defeated, a familiar ache in my chest. I turned to leave, ready to just swallow this bitter pill like so many others before. But then he added something that stopped me dead in my tracks. "Oh, and by the way," he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "I noticed something interesting in your recent activity logs. Seems you've been accessing some unauthorized files. Company secrets, perhaps?" My heart leaped into my throat. Unauthorized files? I had no idea what he was talking about. I always strictly adhered to company policy. "What are you talking about?" I asked, genuinely confused. He smiled a cold, predatory smile. "Let's just say I have a copy of your access logs, and they show you attempting to access restricted project folders. Nothing too serious on its own. A slap on the wrist, perhaps. But if it were to say reach the board, it could look very bad for you, especially if combined with your current insubordination." He paused, letting his words hang in the air, the implication clear. He was trying to blackmail me. He wanted me to shut up, accept his theft, and continue to be his obedient little worker bee. Or he'd fabricate a reason to get me fired. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. This wasn't just about credit anymore. This was about my job, my reputation, my livelihood, my future house with Alex, everything. I stumbled out of his office, my mind reeling. I couldn't believe it. He had stooped to this, the audacity of it, the sheer malice. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, barely able to focus on my work. Sarah and Tom noticed something was wrong, but I just mumbled about a headache. I couldn't bring myself to tell them, not yet. This was too big, too dangerous. That evening I confided in Alex. He listened patiently, his face growing darker with every detail I shared. When I finished, he was furious. "He can't do that," he exclaimed, pounding his fist on the table. "That's illegal! You have to report him." I shook my head, tears welling in my eyes. "To whom, HR? They're his friends. The board? He'll just deny everything, and then pull out his fabricated evidence. I'll be the one who looks bad, the insubordinate employee trying to undermine her manager, with a history of accessing restricted files." We talked for hours, brainstorming every possible solution. Legal action seemed too expensive and drawn out with no guarantee of success. Quitting wasn't an option, not with our financial goals. We were stuck. Over the next few days, I walked on eggshells at work. Every time Mark looked at me, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. He clearly thought he had me exactly where he wanted me. He'd occasionally make veiled threats, dropping comments like, "Remember to stay in your lane," my name, or "Some people just don't know when to be grateful." I was terrified, but also, a seed of defiance was beginning to sprout. I wasn't going to let him get away with this. I started doing some digging. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I knew I needed leverage. I spent my evenings researching company policies, looking for any loopholes, any chink in Mark's armor. I covertly saved every email exchange, every memo, every piece of documentation related to my projects. I even started recording my conversations with Mark discreetly, using a small voice recorder I bought online. It felt wrong, but I told myself it was for self-preservation. I knew I had to be careful. One wrong move and I could lose everything. It was a desperate measure, but I was desperate. I also reached out to an old contact, a friend from college who now worked as a cybersecurity analyst. I vaguely explained my situation, asking for advice on how to detect if someone was trying to frame me by manipulating digital logs. He gave me some technical pointers, told me what to look for, and even suggested some tools I could use to verify the integrity of my own computer's activity. This was a long shot, I knew, but I had to try. I spent another agonizing week like this, gathering information, feeling like a spy in my own office. My anxiety was through the roof, I wasn't sleeping, and Alex was constantly worried about me. He kept reminding me to be careful, but also encouraged me to keep fighting. He was my biggest cheerleader, and without him, I honestly don't know if I would have had the courage to continue. So that's the situation I was in, trapped between a rock and a hard place with my boss trying to ruin my life. I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what it was circumstantial, but it was a lead. The next day, I brought my evidence to Tom, the other developer. He was a quiet guy, incredibly skilled, and someone I trusted implicitly. I showed him the log discrepancies, explaining my suspicions. His eyes widened as he reviewed the data. "This is really bad," he murmured. "Someone's trying to frame you." I nodded. "I think it's Mark." Tom was skeptical at first, but as he dug into the logs himself using his own expertise, he started to see the pattern. He also pointed out a few other subtle clues, like the specific type of access method used, which was common in administrator-level internal operations, but highly unusual for a regular user like me. The breakthrough came a few days later. Tom discovered a small, almost undetectable script running on the company's server, linked to Mark's administrator account. This script was designed to periodically inject false access entries into various user logs, including mine, making it appear as if we were accessing restricted files. It was a sophisticated digital smokescreen, designed to create plausible deniability for Mark if he ever needed to pin something on someone. And he had been using it for who knows how long, on who knows how many people. The worst part was that the script wasn't just creating fake access logs. It was also designed to occasionally plant innocuous but sensitive files into these restricted folders, just to make the breach seem more credible. It was a meticulous, evil plan. We had our smoking gun. With Tom's help, I compiled an airtight case. We had the original memo where Mark took credit for my work, corroborated by my own time-stamped files. We had the voice recordings of his blackmail attempts. And now we had irrefutable digital evidence of his malicious script, proving he was actively trying to frame me. This wasn't just my word against his anymore. This was a mountain of evidence. The confrontation was glorious. I didn't go to HR. I didn't go to the board immediately. I went straight to the CEO. I booked a meeting under the pretense of discussing a critical project issue, ensuring Mark wasn't invited. I walked into that meeting with Alex's support, a detailed folder of evidence and a resolve I didn't know I possessed. The CEO, Mr. Henderson, was a no-nonsense kind of guy. He listened patiently, his expression unreadable as I laid out my entire story, piece by agonizing piece. I showed him the memo, played the recordings, and then, with Tom's expert explanation, presented the digital forensics of Mark's script. The color drained from Mr. Henderson's face. He looked genuinely shocked, and then slowly a cold fury settled in his eyes. He thanked me for bringing this to his attention and assured me he would handle it. He called Mark into his office an hour later, with HR present. I wasn't there, but I heard about it from Sarah, who had a friend in HR. Mark apparently tried to deny everything, bluster his way out of it, but when confronted with the recordings and the forensic report, he completely broke. He knew he was caught. He was fired on the spot. Not only that, but the company launched a full internal investigation into his past projects, and it turned out he had been pulling similar stunts with other employees for years, albeit less drastically. He was also charged with some pretty serious IT policy violations, which could affect his ability to work in tech in the future. The aftermath was a whirlwind. I was given a promotion and a significant raise. My code was officially recognized as mine, and I was publicly commended for my integrity and bravery in a company-wide email from Mr. Henderson himself. Mark's departure sent a ripple effect through the company. Many employees who had suffered under his tyranny finally felt a sense of justice. It was a huge relief, not just for me but for the entire department. Sarah and Tom were ecstatic, high-fiving me in the hallways. My relationship with Alex deepened even further. He was incredibly proud of me, and we finally felt secure enough to start seriously looking for that house. Looking back, I realize how close I came to just giving up, to letting him win, but something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to be another one of his victims. I fought back, not just for myself, but for every person he had wronged. It was terrifying, empowering, and ultimately, one of the most defining moments of my career. The satisfaction of seeing a bully finally get his comeuppance is something truly incredible. It taught me a valuable lesson about standing up for myself, even when the odds seem insurmountable. It also taught me that sometimes the quiet ones like Tom are the most powerful allies, so that's my story. It was a nightmare, but I came out stronger on the other side. Like this video if you were on my side, if you think I did the right thing by taking him down. Subscribe for more stories like this and tell me, what would you have done in my position? Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.